WVUA Law Call with news anchor and host Terri Brewer and guidance from Prince Glover Law, including the knowledge and experience of personal injury attorney Bob Prince. With over 25 years of legal and trial experience collecting millions of dollars for Alabama victims, and president of the state's largest coalition of trial lawyers, the Alabama Association for Justice. Attorney Matt Glover, a member of the prestigious $1 Million Advocates Forum, and legal insights and answers to your email questions from attorney Josh Hayes. WVUA Law Call. Your rights, your calls, live. Plus guests from across West Alabama. This is WVUA Law Call.
The civil rights era may be over, but unfortunately, all types of discrimination are still around today. And with the Martin Luther King holiday on the way, discrimination is a timely topic, and it is our topic tonight. What if you think discrimination has cost you a job? Or what if you think you're being harassed at work? Or what if you're an employer and you want to make sure you know how to keep yourself from being in a discrimination situation or a discrimination suit? With discrimination, there are a whole lot of things to talk about. It's our topic tonight, and we need your questions. Our number is 205-348-WVUA, 205-348-9882. Also, we take your questions via email. The email address you need to know is lawcall@WVUA7.com. So go ahead, get those questions in. We need things to talk about, and we want to know what is on your mind tonight. We'll give you a moment to get those questions in while we look at what's coming up in the next few weeks here on WVUA Law Call. January 24th, an important topic for a whole lot of people, wills and estate planning. Then on January 31st, we are celebrating Law Call's second anniversary with a very special and a fun show. Then on February 7th, traffic accidents. Tonight, Matt Glover is in for Bob Prince. Can you believe it's been 2 years? Noticing that we're having our second anniversary show.
I couldn't believe it either. So like over what, that would be over like 100 shows?
Oh, at least.
Yeah, that's amazing. But I know we've really enjoyed doing this, and we've enjoyed the public and the support they've shown.
It's been so much fun, and I cannot wait to celebrate that second anniversary. It will be a fun show. But tonight we are talking about discrimination, and it's something that it still exists today, and we actually have a photo to illustrate our topic tonight that Matt can talk a little bit about.
Well, you know, perhaps this is one of those scenes that perhaps best represents the forms of discrimination that we are aware of, and we have come a long way from this time period. But Terri, as we're going to talk about tonight, there's so many other forms of discrimination, and I know that most of it starts at home. And so if we're out there in the public, we know as parents we have a very important job to do with our children to make sure that they do not harbor hatred feelings towards anybody.
Absolutely, and it's not, it seems like just about everyone can be discriminated against, and people from all different groups feel discrimination toward them.
Absolutely, and it's a subject that we're going to talk about tonight. And fortunately, I'm not going to be the one talking about it because it's not an area of the law that I practice a lot with.
You have got a helper tonight.
I've got one of the best helpers you could possibly find. Matter of fact, Josh Hayes reminded me, although I didn't need reminded, that we've got what's called a heavyweight here tonight, someone who is a champion in this area, someone who has dedicated their life to discrimination, fighting discrimination, I should say, civil rights, employment law. But Terri, what's very interesting about John Saxon is not only is he appropriate because of the subject of Martin Luther King and all that it represents in discrimination, but with the presidential elections coming up, this is someone who has been a presidential campaign advisor for multiple campaigns. He has put his hands in everything in the state of Alabama. He has helped to shape it for the best. He's an attorney from Birmingham, a law professor. Like I said, a person who's dedicated his life to social justice, John Saxon, and we are so glad that you are here with us tonight.
Glad to be here tonight, Matt, and congratulations and happy anniversary to you and Bob and Josh for 2 years of this show.
Well, thank you very much.
It provides a great service to the people of West Alabama.
Thank you so much. John, we are glad you are here tonight to provide your expertise in this area. A whole lot to talk about tonight, so let's go ahead and get started. Up first, we have Bubba in Tuscaloosa on the phone. Bubba, how are you tonight? Do we have Bubba on the line? All right, we do not have Bubba. We will try to get him back on the line. John, you practice employment law. What got you interested in that area of the law?
It's interesting you asked that, Terri. We define ourselves by our work. You know, if you meet somebody for the first time at a PTA meeting or a kid's athletic game, or you sit next to them on an airplane, first thing you ask is, well, what do you do? Well, I'm a plumber, I'm a school teacher, I'm a roofer, I'm an attorney, I'm a news person, I'm a journalist. We spend more waking hours in the workplace, at least during the work week. Weekends, holidays, an exception, but during the work week, I spend more time with the people in my office than I do with my wife or anybody else in my family. It's what defines us. Most of my clients just want to give a day's work for a day's pay, and they do. They want to be left alone to do their job because they love whatever it is they do. And when discrimination, that kind of unfairness, that what the law calls invidiousness, where you're taking two people, both bank tellers, both checkout people at the grocery store, and treating one way and one another, that's not fair, and the law says you have rights that can be protected.
Wonderful. Next up, we have Jesse from Tuscaloosa on the line. Jesse, can you hear us?
Yes, ma'am, I can.
Thanks for calling, Jesse. How are you tonight?
Fine.
Good. What's your question for John and for Matt?
My question is a very tedious question. It's about the black and white girls in the high schools, in the elementary schools or whatever, in these different schools in the city. I'm talking about the city schools. I have been around with parents involvement programs, and I have noticed that when it comes around the dress code and you're wearing the dress 3 inches above the knees, okay? But I have seen some girls brought into the office and sent home because they have the dress. The dress is the right length, but they said their hips make the dress a little shorter. Now, okay, you have another young lady of color. She have well built or whatever, I say it like that without screwing anybody around. It's called she can wear it because the black girl's hips are more curled and bigger. So I think that's discriminating, because anytime when you have a problem like that and you don't have it in your code of conduct and stuff in your dress code and stuff in your book, that's stirring up a big mess. You see what I'm saying?
So with these dress codes in school, and Jesse's question, I think dress codes in school, that's an issue that's going to go on forever, because it was a big issue when I was in school. When different races are involved, how do you apply those regulations fairly?
It's an interesting question. It doesn't relate directly to employment, but it gets at this notion of fairness and equal treatment. Sure. And it's something you find in a lot of schools where they adopt dress codes for a host of reasons. I would say to you, Jesse, if that's a concern to you and you think it's something that it's caused unfairness with regard to your children or children you know, you should take that up with the school administrators and point out to them that there may be differences in the size of the students or the anatomy of the students that they need to accommodate and take into consideration.
See, Terry, it can just show up in so many different forms, and for a lot of folks, you don't even recognize it.
Sure.
I mean, I think everyone is capable of some form of treating someone unfairly if they're not careful, if they allow themselves to think about stereotypes or to try to fit in. And it's amazing how this subject can show up even in details like the ones Jesse just pointed out to us.
Absolutely, and that was a good question from Jesse tonight, and something that does affect a whole lot of people out there. Next up is John calling us from Northport. Don in Northport. Don, you're on the air. Go ahead with your question. Don, can you hear us, Don? All right, let's see if we can get Don back on the line. And John, what are some of the things, let's say someone thinks they're being treated unfairly at work. What is the first thing that they need to do?
Well, they need to know what the rules are that apply in their workplace. A lot of employers have employee handbooks. They don't have to have them, but if they have one, they have to follow it and go by it. They need to know what the treatment is of other people. Just because you think you're being treated unfairly doesn't mean that you have a cause of action protected by the law. Discrimination is a comparative thing. You know, it's okay under Alabama law to pick on somebody. If there's a personality conflict, you don't like somebody, we can say, well, you shouldn't run your office or your plant or your mill that way. It's got to be that you're treated differently from someone else not in your category. In other words, an employer can set whatever work rules they want, but you've got to apply them equally. You can't say that we're going to